Welcome to the Black and Green podcast. It's your go-to place to find the latest high-quality, all-natural products created by Black artisans. Hosted by yours truly, Dr. Kristen H., the founder of Black and Green. We'll discuss all things health, wellness, self-care, and of course, self-love. This podcast features a refreshing lineup of guests, from entrepreneurs and artisans to holistic lifestylists and clean beauty experts, and a plethora of other innovators within the wellness industry. Join me as we learn from the best of the best.
Hi guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us, joining me with my fabulous artisans again to listen to our podcast. That means so much to me. Today we're going to talk to a fabulous artisan, Lauren from Her Poppy. Lauren, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Lauren Gregory, the founder and CEO of Her Poppy, and I am in the business of helping women transform how they navigate their overall health, which includes their menstrual health, and take back ownership of our bodies.
When you say take back ownership of our bodies, my brain just has all these questions.
Yeah.
Who do you think is trying to own it? What does that look like? What does ownership look like, and where is it coming from?
That comes in I'll say that comes in a lot of different ways. I'll tell you what's on my mind at the moment is the overturn of Roe v. Wade. And I was actually just reading a new article this morning in that, and I have to finish reading it fully, but they're essentially, I believe, trying to get the FDA to recall the oral abortion pill.
Oh, Lord.
And it feels kind of like almost a follow-on and like a next step to the overturn of Roe v. Wade. And so I'm digging into that and kind of sharing that with some advisors with, okay, like how can we, what are some things that we can do, from our platform's perspective to support women throughout this. Taking ownership of our health also looks like there are some organizations that we work with, that we've partnered with, that work with minors that have been sex trafficked. And so we are providing education and resources for them around their overall health, including their menstrual cycles, and empowering them to understand what's happening in their body, understand what questions to ask, because for the most part, this is something that they may not have had access to. And in a lot of ways, for a period of time, their body may not have felt like it was their own. And we are doing our part to reverse that by providing them access to information, education, and resources.
What drew you to this work?
It started with my dad dying, actually. In 2013, my dad passed away from pancreatic cancer. And he was someone who had always been an advocate for health and taking care of yourself. He was always healthy and always joked that he could outwork any 25-year-old in the gym and could outrun him, and was definitely always on me about taking care of myself. And for a long time, I really wasn't. I would just say my health and wellness wasn't that much of a priority. But watching someone who I looked at who was very healthy, very strong, and seeing what cancer did to him, it was a real wake-up call to say, okay, I have to start taking care of myself. And he was actually the third generation in a row on his side to pass from pancreatic cancer. So your mind immediately kind of goes to, okay, well, it looks like, it looks like it's kind of coming to me next. And I didn't want that for myself. And so we were talking to his doctors about it and, what are things that she can do? And they said, you start taking care of yourself. So I just kind of did a complete 180 and started exercising and found a workout routine that I really loved and absolutely fell in love with. Started paying more attention to what I was using, to what I was putting in my body, the supplements that I was taking, the food that I was consuming. Then I really started to pay attention to the products I was using on my body. And my period specifically had always been pretty much ever since I got it, around like 11, 12 years old, had always been one of my biggest pain points. I'd always dealt with severe period cramping and had never really been looked at any further for anything. But like many women, was prescribed birth control for my period pain and had been on that. Prior to that was kind of taking some over-the-counter pain medicines. And from the age of probably about 15 or 16 was put on birth control and was taking that for nearly a decade.
Oh, gosh.
And decided that was something that I didn't want to do anymore. And, but still had this severe period pain that, I myself, had never really dug into deeper. And, neither were any of the healthcare providers that I had along the way. So the solution, if you're not going to be on birth control, we can provide you pain medicine. So I was prescribed Ibuprofen 800 milligrams from a gynecologist that I was taking pretty much every month, just to get through my periods. And kind of fast forward to my dad passing away and going on my own health journey and looking at my body differently, thinking about my body differently. I wanted to use alternatives that I felt were cleaner, that I felt better using. I wanted to feel like I was doing something good for my body. And I got to work developing a formula that helped with my pain, something that helped with the bloating that I experienced as well, and with the mood fluctuations that happened during our menstrual cycles as well. And got to work developing this formula and tested it on myself for about 3 months. And kind of went back to my background, which is in market research and consumer insights. I put together a focus group of women across different industries. Some are accredited medical doctors. Some are in the fitness industry. Some are in the beauty and PR industry. Some are in, women's health and women's empowerment. And they all had extremely positive experiences using the product after trying it on themselves for a few months. And I said, okay, I have something here that women could benefit from. And I got to work putting it in the market. And fast forward, here we are nearly 4 years later.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. While you were talking, I had all these questions pop up in my head. Let's hope I remember them. My first question was, what made you make the choice? I think I know, or I know what some of the issues are, but I'm curious, what made you make the choice of trying to step away from birth control and went towards a pain medication instead? Kind of what were the issues with birth control that you were understanding?
At the time, it was more, I don't want to call them superficial, but I can't think of the word that comes to mind, but just, I'd experienced weight gain with it. And I knew, as I got older, I think maybe like towards my early 20s, I did understand that, okay, it is synthetic hormones that I'm putting in my body. And I, at the time, I know there are non-hormonal options now. I can't say that I was aware of them or if they were around at that time. But I knew there were added hormones that I was putting in my body, and just non-medical background, just at a very basic level. It just didn't sound like it was something that I wanted to do anymore. And it was really that. And just, like I said, I was starting to experience weight gain and things like that. That is really what at the time really led to the decision, and I definitely went through this phase of not wanting to be on any kind of prescription medications or anything. And so it started in my mind at the time. It did at least feel like, okay, I'm weaning myself off of this one, and I'll kind of transition to the pain medicines, and because I won't have to take it every day. I'll only have to take it, I'll go from taking something, every day of the month to just a few days. It felt like it was a little bit better for myself. And so that was my thinking at the time for transitioning off of it.
Yeah, I know I was also on birth control for a little bit, and then I went to transition to, I monitored my periods. And so that's what I was doing, trying to figure out when I was ovulating and trying to control it in that way. So that was the method I was using. I was taking my temperature and real hardcore about it.
I will say to that, like that's 100% the place that I'm in now, and hearing more women, talk about that has definitely, led to the evolution of the work that we want to do with supporting women throughout their entire menstrual cycle, because it's a vital, just like we measure, heart rate and breathing, for women, our menstrual cycle is kind of like a fifth vital sign, if you will. And so definitely wanting to support women with the right information and education, with the right product solutions as well, to provide them that support, throughout the entire cycle, and understanding the benefit that we have. I know we talk a lot about it was painful, and for the most part, we talk about our negative symptoms because we experience them and it doesn't feel good and we don't like it. But there is a benefit to it. And if we really start to understand our health, really start work with a healthcare provider that will kind of help us dig into some things so that we can start to experience the benefits and see the benefits of it, then that will kind of start to change our mindset around it.
Well, tell us, what are the benefits of it?
I mean, if we just talk about some of the physical aspects, if you will, with understanding, we'll talk about the mental aspect. I'll just kind of, because that's kind of the simplest thing to understand. If you think about the different phases of your cycle, and this may be common knowledge for some people or maybe not, but if you think about the phases of your cycle in terms of seasons and understanding what your body needs versus fighting against your body and what it needs. And so we'll think about your luteal phase, which is kind of the last phase of the cycle, if you will. Your menstrual cycle actually starts with your period or the menstruation phase, and it ends with your luteal phase. But your luteal and your menstruation phase, for example, you're going to slow down a little bit more. As women, we're designed to be a bit more intuitive. So during those phases, it's time to kind of turn inward a little bit more. We may want to kind of like clean out and organize a little bit more, and we'll get some more clarity on what the next steps are. And our body's going to need that rest. We may need, I read this in a recent study. I think it's women, it was like between 35 and 42, like they actually recommend 8 to 10 hours of sleep versus just the, traditional typical 8 hours that we hear. But understanding the benefits of getting more rest at that time, and understanding, taking advantage of, which is really the highlight of our entire menstrual cycle, taking advantage of ovulation. And we'll be a bit more outgoing, we'll be a bit more energetic. You'll feel like your creative ideas are flowing. If you're a business owner, that may be your best time to pitch or take that new business meeting or start that relationship with that new business partner. Those are some of the more mental, and emotional benefits that we can experience. And if we really start to dig a little bit deeper into what our symptoms are, with working with a healthcare provider, just extreme period pain itself is an indicator that something inside is not 100% right. And let's dig into this and let's look at this, because extremely painful, like having to take ibuprofen 800 milligrams. And I'm on my own journey of working with a new healthcare provider. But I would say all those years of extreme period pain and ibuprofen 800 milligrams is you get that after surgery. And I'm having to take that, every single month. And so that is an indicator that we need to start doing some investigating into our overall health. And the position that we're taking now as a brand is, putting together that kind of that arsenal or that hub of all the information that women need so that we can start to understand and investigate and take this information back and find the right healthcare provider. Because what we're seeing as well is that typically, women and those who menstruate are not getting this information from their current healthcare providers.
Oh gosh, yeah. It's unfortunately true.
Now we will pause for a moment of meditation with Dr. Crystal Jones.
So wherever you are right now, just take a moment to be. Be in your awareness. Be in your truth. Be in your wholeness. Allow yourself to show up as light, dark, and every shade of gray in between. Feeling your presence, experiencing your truth. Finding your breath. And instead of directing her, listen to her. Ask her where she wants to spend more time and spend more time there. Ask her where she's stuck and go into the experience of why. Be in this breath, be in this movement, and continue to cultivate this experience through the rest of your day. Honoring that your truth and whatever you show up as is always enough. You are perfection and excellence personified. Anything that tells you that you're anything else no longer serves you.
Okay, now that we're back from the meditation, I have this burning question that's in my head. It's like, when you became more thoughtful about your health and wellness and you start to make changes, what were some of the key things that you wanted to change or at the top of your list? I think I heard you say work out. But in addition to that, what were kind of your top list things that you had to address?
Honestly, it was everything, because it came from, and this may sound extreme, but if I looked at my lineage just on my dad's side, like I said, he was the third generation in a row to die from the same type of cancer. And so it was, okay, I have to do a complete 180. And my dad, he was 57. That's young.
That's very young.
And it really felt like, and I had that burning, thing within me at that time, and was excited about making this life change, I'll say. It wasn't coming from a place of fear, but more so a wake-up call. And I knew just kind of go all in. And I will say, I'm thankful, God and the universe and things had aligned. The resources that I needed had kind of perfectly aligned and we're kind of, I would say within, and this wasn't like back to back, it wasn't just like a few days of getting this together, but as I needed resources for, finding a movement, I heard someone call it joyful movement instead of exercise. I found a joyful movement routine that I really fell in love with. But that is around the time that I would say really understood the importance of what you put in your body. And before that, it was the basic. I did understand excessive sugar, excessive carbs can, lead to certain health issues and eating junk food and things like that. But, at the time, I'd adopted a completely plant-based lifestyle and had really experienced the benefits of it. If you find that's something that's best for you, I don't, want to make those kind of health recommendations for people, but at that time, that was an amazing jumpstart to this journey, and just starting to. It was also the catalyst, and I think I said this in the beginning, for me start to tune inward to my body and how do I feel? And I realized that I noticed that I started to feel good to the point where I never realized I was feeling bad, if that makes sense. It's like, I didn't realize I was actually feeling like crap this whole time, but was, kind of medicating it, masking it, and felt like it was the norm.
Yeah, because it got normalized. Yeah. So feeling bad was normalized. You just thought that was that's how people feel. This is normal. You're supposed to feel like that. You're supposed to feel draggy. You're supposed to feel tired. You're supposed to feel full. This is normal. And then when you don't feel that way, like, whoa, there's a whole other side here.
And it really got to the point where I'm still like this now. I still enjoy my workouts. And so I started on this journey when I was around 26, really working out, and I ran my first and only full marathon. I will not do that again. But I like to feel good during my workouts, and I know, if I eat something or don't get enough sleep, it was at the time it became okay. I want to eat these things so I can get, they can support me through my workouts and I can continue to enjoy that. But also just,
workout was joyful movement. I've never heard that.
Joyful movement.
Hop off here. I'm gonna go and look up.
And it really felt like a way, I will say, to honor my dad, and mentally and emotionally, it was kind of a way to stay close to him as well. And so I think that was definitely a driving factor as well.
I love it. So I hear how you create your product, your brand, out of a need that you were trying to address something in your own life. Now that you created something that does it, kind of what is your thoughts for your brand, your product? Are you thinking you want to create more products, or just hey, I created this one signature SKU and that's all I'm going to have?
No, we are, my question as of late, in last year, I had the opportunity to do a lot more in-person events. It was really putting me face-to-face regularly with more women and people who menstruate that we want to serve, and hearing their kind of moving from, okay, we focus on, getting you through your period. And I will say initially, I thought Her Poppy was going to be a full-on feminine care brand. That was my vision. And as I started to understand my period health, my, fertility health, my menstrual cycle health, I noticed a huge gap in access to information. A lot of my peers, my friends, other founders in the industry, there's a lot that we don't know here. And now in having conversations with more women, I'll say throughout last year, I recognized this gap, but also this yearning for answers, but not knowing where to get it. And so now we're working on developing a new platform that has all the right products that women need, and continuing to develop more products for women. But how can we arm them with the information that they need as well to navigate their own overall health and menstrual health, and our menstrual health is a part of our overall health. Like I want that to be, it's not separate. It's not something that needs to be cured, or it's not a symptom. Like for those who menstruate, it is an indicator of our overall health. And how can we arm them, with developing all of the right products, and providing the information so that they can start to navigate it for themselves. And again, so that they can work with their healthcare providers, whether they lean more holistic, whether they lean more not medicine as well, to navigate this better and really just not have to suffer. And like not have it be a dreadful experience, because it doesn't have to be.
Do you think that Black women suffering has been normalized? That we're expected to suffer, and when we don't, we feel guilty?
Hell yes, it has. And I don't mean to laugh at that, but to the point where it has been, and to the point where like we've accepted that.
Yes.
And we're not asking questions, and it's just it's the smallest things that we just don't pay attention to. One example is, all right, popping a pill for your pain.
Yep.
But not like, okay, where is this coming from? Is this a result of too much inflammation in my body? Or, we'll use headaches because that's an easy example, but it's like, you have a headache. Yes, we could easily pop a pain pill, or we could drink more water because maybe I'm not hydrated enough for the day. Maybe I'm stressed for the day. Like, have I had the right nutrients? And so like our menstrual health and start more specifically with the period pain, because that's typically what we associate, like just the symptoms and the things that we go through on our period specifically. It's typically that's how we sum up our menstrual health, but it's been masked. And birth control can probably serve a purpose. Honestly, I'm going on my own, I'll call it a journey of understanding with it. It may serve a purpose, but for the most part, it's been given to us as like a cure-all.
Yep.
For it. And it's like, no.
What I like to think of and recognize and give my body gratitude for is that my body is incredibly intelligent.
Yes.
It's telling me what it needs and what it wants.
Yeah.
When I'm feeling pain, when my head hurts, don't just run and grab a pain medicine. Your body's telling something. Ooh, Kristen, you're hungry. Ooh, Kristen, you're thirsty. Ooh, Kristen, you're tired. You need to lay down and go to sleep.
Exactly.
My body's communicating to me, but I'm not listening. So I want Black women to do a better job at listening to your body. Your body is talking to you. You just have to listen to it.
And if we think about, kind of going back to some of the positives as well, we create life.
Yes.
And whether that's if you're having children physically, like, so if you're creating physical life, or if it's sort of, if it's more metaphysical, we give birth to humans, we give birth to ideas, we give birth to visions. And I think our fertility, our menstrual cycles are a physical representation of that. And so if we spend all of this time masking, curing, only focusing on one aspect of it, and again, completely understandable because it's all that's been pumped into our brains for the most part, that's what we're experiencing. Over 80% of women experience period cramping at some point, whether it's regularly or at some point during their years of menstruation. And if we're disconnected from ourselves, if it's all about masking, curing, dealing with, thinking of it as an annoyance, and
yes. Oh my gosh, you're speaking to me right now.
there's so much there to unpack, and where I'm on that journey personally, and as a company and a brand, we're on that journey as well as unpacking all of that.
Yes.
And then being a resource and serving up a different way, because it's like we've been lied to.
Oh my God.
We've been lied to.
Every single month, I dread my period coming. Like, oh no, here it comes. I'm going to bleed over everything. I'm leaking. I'm blah, 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 blah. All this negativity. You just helped me accept it in a different way. It's your body's time to rest. It's your body's time to don't push through and just try to get everything done like nothing's changed. Your body, slow down. Let your body slow down. So thank you for that gift that you gave me to not dread my period, but to welcome it and to learn from it and to relax because of it.
And as you start to navigate it, and I understand, like, we don't always live in a perfect world, whether you are a career woman, whether you're an entrepreneur, if you have children and families, we don't always have, I'll call it the luxury of taking that downtime easily, but just simply, I think, being aware and finding, as you're more aware and you start to understand what you need and what your options are, you'll find the ways that work for you. Because once you start to think of it as taking care, you brush your teeth before you leave the house in the morning, or before you talk to anybody. And I know a lot of us are working from home now, but it kind of feels like the same thing. Like, our bodies need different things throughout the month, and this has an impact, positive and always not so positive. I don't want to call it negative, but not so positively, mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Yes.
We'll have different needs.
I know something else in my journey of accepting and loving my cycle, that's what we're going to call it now, that I have introduced in the last maybe 6 or so months has been I don't know the exact term. I think it's a period cup. Fantastic. I think that pads and tampons did this thing of me trying to plug up or hide. It just didn't feel the same way. But I feel like with the period cup, like, I'm there. We're both intimately doing this thing. I'm not introducing some toxins to my body. I'm not. I feel like I don't have to rush to do things quickly. I can run to the bathroom and dump if I need to, and not be worried about me having pads or tampons. So it gives me a sense of freedom that I haven't experienced beforehand, because I can literally leave and not be worried about it. I'm a little grossed out about doing it in public, but
I get that.
It's more freedom than I've been used to with my period.
And they're also a way for us to measure, like, we can bleed too little during our period, or we can bleed too much. And I'm trying, personally, I'll share that on here. I'm exploring some new things to use, during my period, but it's a way to get a little more accurate measurement on how much blood, your body's actually releasing. Because too little blood is an indication of something, just as much as, heavier bleeding and losing too much blood is. So I think the menstrual cups, are beautiful, and I love that experience for you.
Me too. I love it. I honestly didn't expect to love it as much as I am, because I also went down the more sustainable thought like, okay, this is more eco-friendly of me not creating a wasted environment. So by my using this, I'm being better for the environment. That was more so my logic. But then it kind of added another benefit that I wasn't expecting.
And like realizing that our blood is not gross.
Yep.
Like, let's just start there. Like, our blood's not gross. I understand everyone doesn't want to. Some women do think of their periods as more of a private experience, and that is beautiful and totally fair. I love that our periods are not gross. I've seen now that some women are putting it in their plants. I want to know. I want to before these plants after like 6 months with some period blood. I want to see a before and after of how this plant is thriving.
And you please send that to me because I'm curious too.
I haven't tried it yet, but I'm not gonna lie. I'm tempted. I am tempted,
and I want to know feedback. So let me just push you to try it. It's R&D. It's research and development. Okay.
Yes. I do. I want to know what this plant did how this plant is thriving after 6 months of some additional fertilizing. We'll call it that.
I love it. Is there anything else you want to leave us with that I didn't ask?
Oh, just let's love ourselves and our bodies. I mean that in the deepest intentional way possible. And our mission on, to arm women with information, access to the right supplies, and a community to support and share with their experience. Because that's something that I found interesting as well, is women they want to talk about it, and they don't mind having, and they always say maybe TMI. There's no TMI because we all, there's no, we're all dealing with it. But I mean that in the deepest, most intentional way possible. And I think taking ownership of your health and starting to look at your cycle differently is one way to start that. And that's my wish for the menstruators and the women that we serve.
Yes. We're so happy to have you on Black and Green. Thank you for joining our family.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Black and Green podcast. Did you have more questions for our special guest? Please leave your questions in the comment section. Also, check us out at blkgrn.com. Please subscribe and comment. We love hearing from you. Until next time, buy Black and live green.